Hi, Ken. You're
Yeah.
looking handsome.
Good looking too.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get down to business now.
All right, I'm putting Xylyx on.
I have like a few questions to ask.
You can ask as many as you want because there's plenty of stories here.
All right. My first question is, what made you decide to join the military?
I didn't decide to join it. The government sent me.
Why? Wait, why did they send you?
Well, because it was for.
You got drafted.
I was drafted during World War One.
Two.
World War Two.
All right. What was your ranked position?
Which one?
Your rank.
Oh, I ended my first rank was a private, and I worked all the way up to a staff sergeant.
Oh. What does that mean?
What does that mean? That means I was promoted. But I was doing the same job as I did when I first came in as when I left. Because I worked in the kitchen in a medical hospital.
Oh, Mom was telling me that you got everybody sick in your crew. How did you do that?
How did you get everybody sick when they drank the bad lemonade?
Oh, yeah. Who told you about that?
My mom.
Yeah, well, what happened was our kitchen mixed up a nice cold drink for all the guys to drink, and it was contained in a metal container. And we used to call them marine containers because these containers contained big metal dishes that would hold food cold or hot, so that when we took it up to the front lines where the guys were fighting, supposedly fighting, if they were under attack, they wouldn't be eating. But that's the way the food was delivered to the guys that were in the upstate. But I just happened to have this container in my kitchen, so I mixed up a lemon drink for our afternoon meal. And little did I know that at the bottom of this big container was a little rust spot. And then the combination of the lemon juice that I used and the rust had caused a poison, unbeknownst to me. And after everybody was finished with their dinner, one after another got themselves sick. They were in very bad positions to.
They were all running to the latrine.
That's it. You got the right word. What else could they do? They ran to the latrines. Well, everybody didn't run. I didn't run. Nothing happened to me. Because I drank the stuff before it was bad. But, it involved not only the privates and sergeants, but it also involved the officers in the club, because they were also eating out of my kitchen. My kitchen was in headquarters company. So that took care of them and then put a few of them in the hospital. And nobody died.
Did you get trouble for doing that?
Get in trouble.
Did I get in trouble? Well, I had enough trouble myself.
How did you become a cook in the military?
Oh, did I become a what?
A cook. How did you get to be a cook?
Well, I was a butcher in in civilian life. And when I got into the service, they said, "Oh, you was a butcher. You know how to cut meats and stuff like that." I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, we'll put you in the kitchen because you'll be useful in the kitchen." So what am I to say? I don't want to be in the kitchen, but you do what they tell you in the service,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not. So that's how I got into the kitchen.
Um, what was your first mission?
My first what?
Mission,
Mission.
My first mission.
like when you were in the military, once you got onto an island in the
Oh,
Pacific, did you
our
have a mission?
Yeah, our first mission to engage with the enemy was at Guadalcanal in 1942. I forget what month it was. It was 1942, about the middle of 42,
In Guadalcanal.
on Guadalcanal. Yeah.
Um, what was the most scary thing you ever faced?
Most scary thing?
Yeah, most frightening
Oh,
thing. Yeah.
the most scary thing I ever had was one time. This one time I can remember, we we brought down about 20 guys, and I was one of them. We were on a what they call
Troop
it?
transport.
No, we were in the jungle, and we were going into the jungle down to where the troops were fighting, because there was a couple of people who were shot, and they needed medical attention in the hospital. They weren't killed, but they had to be carried out. They couldn't walk out by themselves. We put them on what we called a litter, and it took 6 people to carry one person. And so all the people that came with our medical corps helped us deliver all these guys back to where it was safe. And
Get them to a hospital.
that's where we carried them back to our field hospital, because that's the only things we had. It was a field hospital, and they were taken care of by field physicians.
But you were still under fire when you had to go get them?
Well, there was this, what do you call it, spasmodic shooting?
Sporadic.
There was sporadic shooting around, but none of it seemed to be bothering us. I guess it was further enough away, because all we could, I don't even remember if there was any. But we had to carry these 2 people out.
Um,
And that took over a day. So we had to stay overnight one place.
Jungle.
And yeah, we had to stay overnight in the jungle till the next day when we brought him back to the hospital, field hospital.
uh,
Next
how,
question.
how many times did you have to move bases? Like where you were at? How many times did you have to move?
How many what?
How many times did you have to move?
Like
The different islands you went to.
Oh, the different islands. The first island we went to was New Caledonia. And then from New Caledonia, oh, I forgot the big island. The big island we first stopped at was Australia. That's a country. Australia first. That's a country. Then from Australia, we went to New Caledonia. That was a French possession of an island in the Pacific. Then the second island we went to was New Caledonia. Not New Caledonia. That's the one.
That was number 2.
That was number 2 island. And then we went to. Oh, now I can't remember.
You were on Bougainville too?
Boom. That's the one, Bougainville. That's where we had to go to Bougainville. But first we went to Guadalcanal. That's the first time that the American troops fought against the Japanese. That was 1942.
Mm.
Then this, after we cleaned up the island on 1942 of Guadalcanal, we went to the New Fiji Islands for a rest. So we were there for 6 months, and then after that, we went from Fiji Islands to Bougainville. That was another place where the Japanese were fighting against the Americans. And finally, we had to clean up that island. Okay, after we got through with that island, then we went back to New Caledonia. No, we went back to Fiji. I think we went back to Fiji. We were there. We were there for about 3 months, and then we went from Fiji's to the Philippine Islands. In the Philippine Islands, we fought on 3 different islands. One of them was Leyte, I can't remember, and Cebu, and I can't remember the third one.
Mindanao, maybe?
No. I can't remember the third island, but Cebu was the last island I was on. And when they finally cleaned the troops up, and got rid of all the Japanese off, supposedly got rid of them all on Cebu. That's where I was stationed for almost a year, I think, till we cleaned up the Japanese out of Cebu. And then from Cebu, and came back to the United States in 1945. Here I am today. You got any other questions?
Where did you spend majority of your times when you were like not training? When you were not training, where did you spend your majority of your time?
When you weren't working, what were you doing?
When I wasn't doing that, well,
Sean's recording.
I had to take some time out.
You can edit it.
Write letters back home to my family to let them know how I was doing. Where are you going to go in the jungle to get entertainment? The entertainment came to us in the form of some movie stars and some celebrities from the United States who came over to entertain the troops. But unfortunately, they were not able to make a big performance for everybody. They could only do it in certain areas that were not going to be disturbed by Japanese fire.
Safe zones.
Did you see any of them?
What's that?
Did you see any of the celebrities?
Oh yeah. The first one we saw was Joey Brown. He was a very
Comedian.
He was a very movie star, and he was a comedian, and he entertained the troops for I don't know how many different islands. He also had U.S. Actors and actresses who came to the islands to make entertainment for the troops. But they always had to make sure that it was safe for the civilians to be on the island where they were fighting the Japanese. So the Japanese said, hey, we were watching these movie stars do a performance for us.
Mhm.
Tell 'em what a typical day for you was like. I mean, what happened? What was your regular day like? You weren't like other soldiers because you worked in the kitchen, you worked in the mess. So what was your day like?
Oh, we had two groups that used to take care of the kitchen, and we split them in half, and we worked for supper, breakfast, and lunch. And then the next group would come. Then the other cooks would come in, and then they would serve breakfast, lunch, and supper. And then the next day it changed like that. So that means like we had like a day off, but we really didn't because we're all working together. And we never even paid any attention to what day it was or who it was, as long as we got the food out.
I got next question. Next question. Is there anything that you regret doing in the military?
Anything I regret doing
When
Yeah.
you're in service.
when I was in service? I can't think of anything I would regret doing. I did everything what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And if I didn't have a chance to do it, I tried it anyway. We used to play cards, and when you're playing cards, you're gambling a little bit too. Well, you didn't have much to gamble with. All you had is nickels and dimes, and usually it all ended up in one guy's pocket, and it never was mine. Yeah, I'll tell you one thing: we did take care of a lot of soldiers who were injured and by gunfire, and a lot of other ailments that could happen to them. Like they could stumble and fall and break an arm or break a leg. And some of them didn't. Some of them were so scared of being alone with their buddies out, especially at night. And the Japanese which we think were going around trying to find groups of, of American troops by whispering and trying to speak like Americans with no accent. But every time a Japanese spoke and he spoke in English, you knew it was a Japanese. So you try to find a voice and use your gun and bang, 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 bang. Maybe you shot him, maybe you didn't. If you did shoot them, the ones that were still alive would take their, their injured comrades back to their medical hospital.
You never shot anybody.
I never shot anybody.
Did you even have a gun?
I had a gun, but I never used it.
um, what was your best memory?
Best memory from your time in the service.
Oh, I got a lot of them.
Can you tell me some?
The first one, the best memory I had was when after spending a month, I think it was almost a month, uh, at least 3 weeks on board ship, and then getting off the boat in Australia, we soldiers were billeted into private homes, and I happened to be in this one home by myself. Usually they put two guys in each home, and the other guy who was supposed to stay with me, he got sick and he had to go to the hospital, so I was all by myself with his family in Australia. That's one of my memorable, memorable, memorable things.
Mm.
How long were you there with them?
We were there a little over a week, but I think 8 days.
8 days. Mm.
The other
Memorable.
memorable thing was when I was in New Caledonia. I was fortunate enough to be able to travel from one side of the island to the other side of the island to pick up fresh vegetables at a farm that was run by a priest and his community. And they were able to sell some of their products to the Americans where they got some cash money. And we used to take a whole day to travel over the mountains to, I forget the name of the small town that they lived in. We'd go across the mountains, and then we'd pick up our vegetables, and the next day we'd turn around and go back home.
How many men did you cook for?
I think there was 100.
Jim.
Close to, let me see. And I know headquarters company had 60 people in the headquarters company. Every day you cook their breakfast, dinner, and supper. And I never had to do dishes because I was a cook. we had KPs, with kitchen police, we called them. And that was their job to wash all the pots and pans that the cooks dirtied.
We are the KPs here at home. The kids are.
I didn't that.
They are too. That's the kids do the dishes at their house.
Well, that's a good thing to do. You got to earn keep.
Philip does the dishes here. Your grandpa Phil does the dishes here. So.
Yeah, me, I just sit here and eat.
That's because he's an officer now. Tell him Mom said you're an officer.
Well, you got any more questions?
Yeah. How long did you serve for?
How long was I in the service?
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 years.
4 years.
Yep.
How old were you?
At the time, I was 22 to 26.
Would you recommend anybody else to go to join the military?
Yeah, I don't know why not. I had a good life in the military, but even if it was during wartime, you had to follow all rules and regulations of the army, and if you didn't, you were caught at it. You were punished. They couldn't give you much punishment overseas, though. The only punishment they used to give the guys was, you're going to go to the kitchen and wash the pots and pans.
Drink the lemonade.
That was the big thing. They had to clean up. They had to clean up the place where we ate. And most of them didn't sit at a table. They were sitting out on the grass like you would on a picnic. Out of your mess gear.
What was the most thing that you enjoyed doing when you were in service? What was the most thing that you enjoyed doing when you were in a service?
Sleeping. Yeah. Well, not only sleeping, but I enjoyed being with the guys who were just the same in the same what do you call it? In the same
Same boat?
Same same category that you were in. They all were all together. And lots of times on payday, we were paid in cash. And when the cash came out, then they started playing cards. And pretty soon you either won all their money or they won all yours. Of course, you didn't need any money to eat and sleep, so it didn't make much difference. Another thing they did, just so you wouldn't get yourself in trouble like that, you were able to make a deposit in a bank that the government was taking care of, and they kept taking care of your bank account all the while you was in the service, which was $30 a month. That's what you got paid, $30 a month.
See that? You make $30 in 2 hours, and Grandpa made $30 in a whole month.
Yeah.
Dang.
Before I got the $30, it was $21 a month. Because after all, you were clothed. You had two uniforms, and then you were fed, and you had a place to sleep, and it didn't cost you nothing.
Yeah, so do the kids.
More questions.
What did your family say when you enrolled in the military service?
What did your family think when you got drafted?
Well, I had a brother older than me, a year and a half older than me. He was in the service before I was. And he got in the service before the war before war was declared.
Well, you did too.
What was his name?
No, I got it after. You're right.
War had not been declared.
War had not been declared when I went in the service too, because that's what happened December the 7th.
What was your brother's name?
His name was George. And he was killed in New Guinea. That's one of the biggest islands in the world. And the Japanese almost had that whole island conquered until the American troops came in. And they cleaned the Japanese out of New Guinea, like they did in all the small adjoining islands. In fact, them Japanese were all over the Pacific.
A little bit about what it was like, being drafted and going in the service then was something everybody wanted to do, right?
Well, after war was declared.
After the war was declared, I didn't know anything about that. Everybody tried to get out of the service. When you were 21, you had to have, if you had a specific job you were doing at home, like you were working in a factory on a machine that only you could run, or only could be run by civilians, then you were not drafted. You got what they call a deferment from being in the service. You worked in the factory because they had to have people making supplies for the army, trucks, guns, ammunition. Well, all the food, and the Navy, you had to depend upon the Navy in order to get all your food delivered to you. That not only involved the Navy, but it involved private shipping companies. who were hired by the government to make deliveries. And that's what I spent like 3 months, 3 or 4 months altogether of being shipped from island to island by these boats that were hired by the government.
They were private ships
Some
that were outfitted
there were some
to support a military operation. But
Yeah,
they were private ships that were changed over.
they used to be ships that what would you call them?
Merchant Marine.
No, they were passenger ships, cruise
Pat-
line.
They were cruise lines that turned into army.
Barracks, like a barracks on
Well,
the sea.
Transports.
Anyway, they changed these cruise ships into ships to ship soldiers overseas. And they had all kinds of work to do in them because they had to make sleeping quarters and eating quarters for the troops that were going to be on board these ships. And some of them never made it. Fortunately for me and the 3 ships that I was with, I was on a Santa Maria. No, I was on a Santa Elena. That took me all the way from Brooklyn Navy Yard all the way to Australia, day after day. And asked me what did we do on board ship? Not a heck of a lot. We listened to a lot of stories from one guy to another, and then we learned how to play cards and lose your money playing cards.
Sounds like you lost a lot of money, Grandpa.
Yeah.
Well, you had money on you from when you when you first got into service. You brought some money with you when you left home. You maybe brought maybe 30 or 40 bucks with you because they said you don't have to have any money. Everything will be taken care of for you. But if you wanted to get in a card game or in a dice game, you had to have money or a nice watch.
Grandpa, it sounds like you lost a lot of money, so maybe you weren't so good at cards.
Well, yeah, I lost my money. Yeah. You didn't need any money. When this guy that was doing the gambling, if he won your money, what's he going to do? He doesn't have anybody else to play with because he's got all their money. What they did is they borrowed their money from him to play cards again.
What was the conditions like on the boat?
Well, that's part of the game, I guess.
His question was, what were the conditions like on the boat?
Crowded. In fact, we had to sleep on the. No, I can't figure out what it was. We had to sleep on canvas covers that were tied onto posts that held 3 layers. Was it 3 layers? Yeah, 3 layers. 1, 2, 3. 3 layers where you would have your bunk.
Like a hammock almost?
Well, they were like a hammock. They were strung up. I can see them in my mind, but I can't seem to explain them.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it was like the canvas in a cot, but it was a post.
That.
Yeah.
Only they were tied, and it was a big piece of canvas. That was all made by civilians before the ship was ready for troops.
So Three people.
There was
Three
a
people.
layer of three.
Boy.
Did anybody fall from it?
Did anybody fall out of the tree? Out of the, not that I know
That's what it was like coming home.
What was it like coming home?
of.
What was it like coming home back from the service?
It was same thing. We had the same kind of accommodations.
Same kind of ship.
What port did you land in, and what was it like when you landed?
Oh, wait a minute. First, I gotta say that I was chosen. This is before the war was over. I was chosen to be going back to the United States on a hospital ship. And on the hospital ship, there was supposed to be a big red cross on each side of the ship, on the port side
Starboard.
and the starboard side, so that the Japanese would not shoot a torpedo into a hospital ship, because everybody on there was supposed to be injured.
There was supposed to be a rule of law of the war. Right?
More or less a rule of the law, a law of war. You're right.
I read about that.
But
So you're on the hospital ship.
so I was on the hospital ship, and we had, I don't remember how many guys were on there, maybe 500-600. But the fact being that I was a sergeant, they gave me a job to do. Check out all these guys every day, see if they're still on board ship. Yeah.
Where else would they go?
Where else would they go? Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you had to keep track of them. That's all.
Where did you land when you got to the United
Oh.
States?
After I don't know how many days we were on board ship, coming from the Philippine Islands, from the Philippine Islands all the way to San Francisco. And that's where we got off the ship in San Francisco after, I don't know, 15, maybe 20 days on board ship to get back to the United States.
So when you got off the ship, were there people there to greet you, or?
Oh, when we got out, when the ship was coming into the harbor, there was a big wharf where they landed, and on the wharf was a big band was playing, and people were singing and playing music for the returning veterans. The war was over at that time. When I was on board ship coming back, that's when the war was over.
How did you get from San Francisco back to Detroit?
On a train, 3 days.
There's a train that travels that far.
It took 3 days to get back to Detroit on a train. When we got into San Francisco, we got into a big truck with 20 other guys, and they took us to a campground, and they said, "This is where you're going to stay here for a couple of days before you can make arrangements for your transportation to go home." So we were at this camp for 2 days. And while we were at the camp for 2 days, we were able to get on a telephone and call our family at home for free.
But back then was a big deal.
That's the only way you could contact them anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like telephone calls today, right?
Not like today, no.
I bet Xylyx doesn't know what it was like back then. It was very expensive to make a phone call across the country.
You mean you couldn't have a video chat with your parents?
I mean, long distance cost an arm and a leg, and it took a lot of effort to make a phone call like that.
Yeah, you had to go from one telephone company to another telephone company to another telephone company. They passed your voice along through these different companies. I finally made it.
Yeah, I bet your parents were thrilled to hear from you.
Oh yeah, they were. That was a big surprise. And it so happened that when I called, it was like 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night in September. And my mother, it was on a Tuesday, because on Tuesday was the day that they had a special service every Tuesday in our church for civilians to pray for the soldiers who were still in the service. And my mother happened to be at the church when I made up the telephone call. But I made up for it the next day. I called earlier. You could only hit the phone when it was open.
So the first time you called, your mom was not home.
She was not home, no.
Oh boy.
But
Which was the second time?
You were allowed, I think, 5 minutes to talk.
Well, was anybody home when you called?
Oh yeah, I remember Bernadine and Al, and I think Joe was home too, and Agnes. I can't remember who was home, to tell you the truth.
Somebody was there.
There's 11
Yeah.
kids. Somebody had to be there.
Yeah, but they were married too.
Yeah.
More questions?
I got no more questions. You answer all of them.
Well, we got a question. Where's your trophy?
Oh, right here. I'll take it down.
Okay.
But you got a trophy for
He came
For
in first
wrestling.
place in his wrestling tournament yesterday.
wrestling tournament.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
so cool.
Is that the trophy?
No, just wait a second. He's got to go get it.
What is that?
That's Sean.
No, I was looking at the sofa behind you, and the chair behind you.
There? No, that's the
And it was up close, and it looked like it might have been a sofa. Might have been,
Trophy.
yeah, a trophy.
Oh, yeah.
Holy mackerel!
That's the brackets.
Yeah.
This is bracket.
And this is the medal.
Get the bracket up
Oh,
there.
nice medal.
Get the-
Beautiful.
Get the bracket up there for a second and show me where you started on that bracket, Xylyx.
Here, I had to buy the first round, then I won my other ones.
Okay, so see that? He started way over on the left. Those are all the matches on the left.
These other
And
kids.
there's another column.
Yeah.
So those are matches. And then he won his match. And he moved on to that column and he won his match
Third
there.
match there.
Then he moved on to
Fourth
that
match.
column and won his match there. Then he moved to the next one and won his match there, which means he was the winner.
Woo-hoo!
My goodness, how big were those kids that he took care of?
Champion.
Same size as him.
Where did
I was in the second seat, the bottom, that second seat, and top is first seat.
And what's your weight class there?
126.
126-pound guys.
126? You weigh that much?
Yeah.
You're a big boy.
Boy.
Yeah.
No.
And let's see that medal again.
You got a medal? Oh yeah,
Right here.
that's great.
Awesome.
Congratulations. That's terrific.
Nice going.
Thank you, Grandpa.
All I got to say is, if you get into the position where you can hurt somebody, don't.
All right. Thank you for the interview.
Thanks for
Okay,
Yeah.
and thanks for asking all them questions and getting all those answers.
You're welcome.
if he has more, we might do this again.
Well, yeah, we can do it. We're happy to.
Okay.
Yeah, they're down here. They're down here until the first week of May. So
His project, the interview part is due in March, but the more people, I figured with Dad and Mo there, And that would help to get this all put together.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just wanted more people on hand to be able to do it the first time. But if we have more questions, now we know how to do it. We know that it'll work, and I'll just let you know.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's, you know, his experience was so different from most people in the military because he was in the mess and in the medical corps, so he was not in combat. And I don't even know if they do that anymore.
Oh, yeah. They follow the same rules.
But they don't, they have external resources to provide food. It's not military people who provide the food to the troops anymore.
Well, not in the
Yeah,
field.
when they're out in the field, they're taking care of themselves.
They hire people to do it. That there are not military people who do it anymore.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
When they're in the field, they don't have civilian contractors in the field, but bases they do. All the bases there that way.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway,
I told Xylyx that he was pretty lucky because I'm 100% sure that nobody in his class is able to interview a World War II veteran. I'm 100% sure of that. So it was just a cool thing. So I'm really grateful that you would do that for us.
Thank you.
Hope you get a good mark. Hey.
Yes. Well, if you were here for breakfast, we often reminisce about the war back then, at that time too. So
maybe I'll have the WebEx in and I can be a part of breakfast. Now that we have this connection.
there you go. Oh,
All right, everyone. Well, we love you tons.
Hey,
love you.
Yeah, we love you. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Fun. This was,
Bye.
we
Good
all learned
night.
something.
All right.
Have a good night, guys.
Bye.
Okay.